Hey, this is Christian Roldan.
And Jordan Morris from the Seattle Sounders Football Club.
And you're listening to...
Will Bruin once again. And can this be the start of something?
Will Bruin does his score goal.
Will Bruin got it! Will Bruin got the level up! Pinnacle finish for Bruin!
Welcome to another episode of Bear With Us. I am Jeremiah Shan. Joining me, of course, is Will Bruin, back from the
dead.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll say retired Bear.
A now retired Will Bruin, a now retired Bear. We're gonna have to do. This is gonna be a weekly show now, right?
There we go. You just got to tell my kids to not scream and be super loud, and we can do it.
Yeah. So let's just start there with the big news, which is you announced your retirement a few weeks ago. Now, at this point, how are you settling into your post-playing career?
It's been good. I mean, being a stay-at-home dad so far, it's been harder than going to trainings and games and stuff. So that's been the hardest part. But it's already March 1st, and I'm already itching to figure out what I'm going to do next.
And you have 3 kids now since the last time.
Boys.
I think.
Yep.
I don't know if you had your. You must have had those. You must have maybe just had the third one.
He's 6 months now, so yeah, he was born in August. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how is that filling up the house?
It's loud, a lot of chaos. 4, 3, and 6 months. A lot of fighting, a lot of yelling, a lot of noise.
So your 4 and your 2 oldest are going to be like real rivals.
Yeah,
they're going to be going at it like their whole lives.
Oh yeah, we just started them in like Pee Wee soccer, like the U5 and U4. So they're on different. They've always done soccer together. Now they're in different age groups, and they had their first practices the other night. They practiced Wednesday nights at different fields. Both of them were like sad to be separated from each other and have their own practices. So it was interesting to watch. Like Caitlin, my wife, had to take Liam, the oldest. I took Cohen, the middle, and they both were like, "No, I want him to be here. I want to play with him." So it'll be interesting to see how that season plays out.
Yeah, they're gonna have to. One of them, I have a feeling your 3-year-old is gonna end up playing up a year. And
yeah, he's pretty good. I would say he's probably of the two. I'd say he's the better right now, or at least the more interested.
Right, and so then it'll be, and then all of a sudden your oldest will be decided that he's more into books.
Yeah, he's already said he doesn't want to do soccer camp, he wants to do tennis camp. So we're gonna start looking for some tennis camps, and we'll just
look at that.
We'll see. But it'll be funny if the middle child starts following him in every sport. We'll see what happens.
Jeez. I guess I have to be very careful about how much I laugh today.
Yeah,
this cough I have is sticking around. So other than that, what are you filling your days with other than carting your kids around everywhere?
Not too much. I've I'm finishing up my U.S. soccer B license coaching course. So that's taken up a little bit of time. A lot of Target trips, picking the kids up and taking them to school. It's pretty much a low profile right now. And it's been good for a little bit, but I'm the person that needs to be doing something. So I'm kind of enjoyed the time, but I'm starting to figure out, all right, we got maybe a few more months to see what's next.
I got to imagine Caitlin is sort of like,
she wants me out of the house. Yeah.
Right. She's more than happy to hand off some of these responsibilities.
100%. Right? Like now when I go coach with Austin's Academy for like once a week at night, she's like, please go get out. Cause she's used to me being gone for preseason for a week at a time, or like on the road for weekends for a game, just like to have her own time. So it's been even, last night I went to coach, and the oldest, Liam, was like, "Oh, we just needed a little break from Dada."
There we go. So have you thought much about what you want to do long term?
I think I want to stay involved in the game, whether that's on the coaching staff or in a front office. But I just can't see myself like stepping away completely from the game. It's like all I've known, all I've done. I had it sounds funny, but I'm kind of like an MLS junkie because I played for 13 years, so now I'm going to be watching all the games and stuff. It was kind of surreal because I was at a wedding this past weekend during opening week, and I was watching games from my phone, trying to like check in, see how things are going. So it'll be interesting. It kind of felt more surreal since opening kick started, but during preseason it was like, oh, okay, great, I'm retired, I don't have to do a preseason. But now that season's in flow, it's a little more real now.
Yeah, I can imagine how preseason maybe feels like this is exactly no.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be out of this. And then
I'll
all
miss
of a
half
sudden,
a preseason. I'll miss half a preseason, land somewhere, and
right?
no, I wasn't even. I knew I was retiring, but so
So, where would you like to end up? I guess, like, what part of the country are you hoping to get back to?
so the only West Coast place we'd go back to is Seattle.
Okay, good to hear that.
But we're open to like every opportunity, and everything's going to be open for discussion. Like we're not shutting the door on anything. We're going to be open minded, but we're not going to jump at anything that pops up. So like I'll take my time, and if the right situation, right place, and right role presents itself, then yes, it's something to consider. But I'm not going into this next chapter with a closed mind saying this is what I want, this is how I want it, because when you do things like that, it never works out.
Well, before you land somewhere else, let's empty the chamber on all your hot takes before you have to, before you have to get into any of this stuff.
Yeah.
So let's start actually with a tweet you sent out, I guess during the Austin game, where you expressed some frustration, and then someone responded to you, and you said, I think your response was something just like soft mentality.
Yeah.
So what did you see in the Austin game, especially since we have Austin coming up for the Sounders this week?
Yeah, well, full disclosure, like I said, opening weekend I was at a wedding in Miami. So
Yeah.
By the time I stepped out of the reception after a few Coronas and was watching the last like 20 minutes of that Austin game, so I didn't catch the first half. And I hear I didn't miss much. I haven't gone back and watched it. I don't plan on it, but I turned it on. It was 1-0, and then I saw Minnesota score their second 2-0, and it's pretty much when the tweets started, because it's like, I don't know. For me, I love everybody at Austin. I love the organization, the players and stuff, but like it's a home opener, relatively new club. It's not like Minnesota's a world beater. So you just got to come out strong. Now, maybe technically you might not be the best, but you got to come out with some intensity. And like I said, I didn't watch the first half, but I hear it wasn't the most intense. So that's why I was like, man, like somebody's just got to fire that. Somebody inside the squad has to be like, what the hell are we doing? Like some guys got to get after each other. Because I remember like my years in Seattle, like internally we had that with guys. Performances weren't great, and guys held each other accountable internally, and that's really important for a team.
Yeah, so the team that Austin has right now, I guess for the benefit of this show, is it's pretty much the same roster you were on last year. Like they have not changed a lot of guys. They haven't, they maybe mean one or two additions, maybe a couple subtractions, but it's pretty similar roster to last year. And last year was a roster that didn't really perform up to the level that they wanted. Inside, did you see anything there that you were surprised at, or that you felt like was like, let me put it this way. Were you surprised there wasn't more off-season changes?
Yes. Yes and no. The roster is technically and very good players, very good team, very good individual quality. The one thing I will say that I think they're missing is that killer instinct, killer mentality. But you can't that's hard. You can't just go find somebody that has that. It just has to happen naturally.
You're saying it's more of a cultural thing you have to breed.
Not necessarily, but because when things are tough, sometimes people just you can see teams that they just look at each other like who's gonna it's just a bunch of oh, here we go again. A lot of people looking at each other saying who's gonna step up and do something. But when you're on teams with guys that are like for example, Ozzie Alonso, when I play with him, he is one of the best competitors, wants to win the most I've ever played with. You almost feel like you're letting him down if you're not performing well. And that's probably one of the strongest qualities and traits a team can have, because it's just so everybody feeds off it. And like I said, those are not everybody doesn't have that. Everybody has their own quality, their own style, their own personality. But having somebody like that is it's huge for teams. And so going back to I thought there'd be more players being brought in. So I don't know the salary cap. All I heard time and time and time and time again in the offseason was, oh, we have no space, we have no space, we have no space. But then you see other teams signing all of these players. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to make any, I don't want to talk on something I don't know about, but I feel like more could have been done, but maybe it's coming. Who knows?
Do you think that sort of mentality has to come from the type of player? Does it have to come from, can it come from the coaching staff? Is it something even bigger than just coaches and players?
No, I'd say coaches cannot like force that. If you try to force that, that's when you just get like players not really buying in. So you don't force that. It's just like, it's a special quality, honestly. Like players internally, individually have to have it. It's just like not something you can really teach. And if you try to fake it, it's obvious. People know, people see it. So it's just all about like finding the right type of player that has that. And you can see it in performances on the field and stuff.
And from what you know of internally in Austin, do you expect there to be a response this week? Or is this something where this is more of a long-term issue that they're going to have to sort through?
No, I mean, when I played last year, we were actually pretty good on the road. I couldn't go back and tell you exact, records and stuff.
I mean,
but
you
I remember
won at Seattle.
Yeah, I remember it was pretty good. The group kind of came together on the road. And I just don't know why they can't do that at home. That's kind of like what I'm hinting to. I don't know if like the fan base is so good that it puts almost too much pressure on the team at home. But like when you go on the road, it's almost like, all right, we don't have to worry about performing as well and putting on a show. We can be hard to play against. We can be tough and nitty gritty. We can try to eke out a goal and get a result. But like it shouldn't shift from home and away. Obviously, your tactics change a little bit, but like you shouldn't have to. You should kind of have that same mentality defensively at home, because then you'll have the way the team coming in will play differently and you'll have more chances to score. But I feel like I didn't explain that as well as I should in my brain, but hope you got the gist of it.
Yeah. So one of the players that was missing last week, I think is out again this week or I would expect to be out again this week, is Sebastian Drusi. He's obviously an extremely talented player. Mm-hmm. How much does missing a player like that end up impacting the way Austin plays?
It's a big miss. He's the guy that, like, if you're in trouble and you're trying to play out and you can't get out, you can just force the ball into him and he'll get out of it. You know what I mean? Like, and he is a spark on the offensive side, creates chances. He's kind of the guy that, like, when things are tough, everybody looks to, like, hey, what are we going to do? Maybe he's not the most vocal, but he leads by example and actions. And missing him is tough, because it's like when you're in the final third, everybody's like, where's Seba? Let's get him involved on the ball, because when he's involved on the ball, usually good things happen. So it's definitely a big miss, but at the same time, it's opportunity for other guys to step up and show, hey, look, I want more minutes. I should be playing more. And that's the way this league is. Injuries happen. And I'm seeing more and more injuries happen over the years, especially with congested schedules and stuff. So it's just more opportunity for players to kind of build their own, I don't want to say legacy, but like pave their own paths.
Well, you mentioned this player by name. He's obviously the kind of player that has the mentality you're speaking to. But Ozzie Alonso also recently announced his retirement. You obviously played with him several years or a couple of years at Seattle. And then yesterday the Sounders had this big ceremony for him. They signed him to a one-day contract. Something I don't think the Sounders had ever done this before. They signed him to a one-day contract. They brought his whole family to Seattle. Did this whole thing, and he's going to have a pregame ceremony as well. What are some of your favorite Ozzie Alonso memories, or some of your most vivid, maybe not favorite, but vivid memories?
Honestly, first of all, it was great seeing all that stuff on social media the other day about him coming back to Seattle. It's really cool to see. If anybody deserves it, he does. Honestly, the first thing I think about was when I was playing in Houston and playing against Ozzie. He's like I said, like, as an opposer, you try to stay away from him because he wants to kill you. And I remember we kind of got into it. He went to like scratch my face and stuff. And then when I came to Seattle, everybody made all those videos, and it was great. But that's the type of it's like a win at all costs. That's the type of person he is. That's why he had such a long, great career. That's why he was such a winner. It's something that, like, you truly have to want to win. And I don't think I've ever played with somebody who truly wants to win as much as as much as he did, whether it was in training, whether it was in the games. It didn't matter to him. You're doing 5v2 and you make him, he's going to kill you. Like it's it's just like I said, it's a trait that's like you can't teach it. It's just desire. So he's definitely MLS legend. So I was happy to see him get a great send off.
You know, one of the things so Obed Vargas was asked about him. Obed obviously never played with Ozzy, and but he was asked sort of like, what stories have you heard about him?
Mm-hmm.
And Obed was sort of obviously a much younger player, came through at a very different time. And he was just like sort of wide-eyed at the idea that Ozzy would go into tackles just like he would in games, in training.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, I would hear that. And almost like, he almost didn't believe it, but he's like, this is what I heard, is that Ozzy would go into tackle. I mean, is that really how Ozzy trained? Like,
100%. You train how you play. Like, it's almost like a generational thing. Like, I started in 2011 and I played with a guy named Eddie Robinson. He was kind of like the same way. Like, he would kill you at training. Like, it didn't matter. And it is you train how you play. It's one thing to say it and then not actually do it and be like, well, we train how we play, but you're not going to go tackle people. And back then, you were tackling people no matter what. And if people got injured, well, that's just how it is because that's how you trained. Now, obviously, with all the sports science and everything, it's like you want to keep your most effective players healthy. So it's a double-edged sword there. But little things like that kind of trickle into the games, I think. Like if you you're used to pulling out of tackles in training, you might do it in the game at a big moment. But that's something Ozzy never did. He never pulled out of tackles, whether it was a regen day in 5v2 or, MLS Cup final.
Did you like playing with players like that?
I loved it. I loved playing with guys like that. Not against guys like that, but he's the type of guy like you loved being on your team. It's just the energy is contagious. The wanting to win is contagious. And it's just something that like feeds into the whole group.
Yeah, I can only imagine that would be, I assume he's one of those players you absolutely love as a teammate and you despise as a,
exactly.
Or I don't know, maybe you begrudgingly respect, but you certainly don't
exactly.
Looking down on him at the other side of the field.
Loved playing with them. Against him, you're like, geez, got to play with Ozzy. Like play against Ozzy today. Hopefully he doesn't crush me.
Does it feel like there are fewer players? Like at one point, it seemed like MLS was sort of built on that type of player. I don't know that that's the case anymore.
No, it's everything now is more like possession-based sixes or possession-based center backs. You don't really see like, I remember my first few years, the center backs, they're not playing out. They're just trying to crush the forward and kick it long.
Right.
Sixes are killing the 10. Now with all like the, yellow card accumulation, VAR and everything, you can't do it as much. It's just safer for players, which is better. But, everybody likes to see a good tackle every now and then.
We do love to see a good tackle. So this last week, there were replacement refs in all the games. It looks like we're going to get replacement refs again this game. And when you're talking about this sort of hard tackling and these types of things, do the replacement refs make it easier to get away with stuff? Do you feel like they're maybe even more on high alert?
Easier to fool, almost.
Easier to fool.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like with MLS refs that you're used to, you know what you're getting. Almost like what you can get away with, you can't get away with. Consistency. Now with all the new refs, you don't know what to expect. You don't know how they're going to call a game. You don't know. Like you see the highlights on Twitter of the Marky Delgado. What was it? Right. Second yellow? Like doesn't even touch him, but it's just like things like that. You just don't know what you're going to get, and as a player, that's tough.
Where do you come down on? I mean, how closely have you paid attention to the dispute between the union and the referees, the referee organization?
Not too much. I expect that the referees are not asking for a bunch, and no matter what, the league wants to try to win these things just out of how they are.
Right.
Been through it plenty of times. They don't care what it is. They just want to be like, we had the last negotiation win.
Right.
So, I'm power to the refs.
Yeah,
that's one thing I would not want to do is be a ref.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah,
it's difficult. It's very difficult. You get talked down to, just from not talked down, but just like you get mad people. Yeah, exactly. And like, it's a tough job.
Yeah. So it looks like maybe this is hopefully coming to a resolution, but you're right. It does feel like the league just sort of wants to win this, because at least to hear it from the PSRA, this is over what amounts to 100. The increases they're looking for amount to like $100,000 per team. Like that's such a small amount of money that it's almost hard to fathom.
Yeah, like the fact that it's the way the league has grown over the years, that they're actually like complaining about this, for me is like childish.
Right.
That's just, but that kind of sums them up.
Yeah, and it does also feel like the players like the league owners may have some embarrassment over it. There may, although I don't know how many of them feel shame, but they're the people who are most getting hurt by this, I would think, are the players. Like whether or not the players think the union referees were the best referees in the world or not, they got on. Like it doesn't seem that hard to understand that these guys at least are experienced. They know what they're doing. Whereas these new refs, their experience levels are, oftentimes literally nothing above an amateur level.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would think that's a little hard to think about.
And you think like some of these guys can get caught up in the moment with some of the players that are playing on the field too.
Right.
Like they start refing the player, protecting players. And it's just like, no, you want somebody who's going to come and actually ref the game.
Right. I mean,
and I didn't see, like I said, I didn't see enough in week one because I was in the wedding to actually make like a solid critical decision on each game and referee. But that's just, what I see from outside looking in on week one. I'll make more of a decision next week, or what's today, Friday, tomorrow, when I can actually watch a lot more games.
It's not hard to imagine that in you look at the Miami game and here you have a ref who I'm almost positive has never coached a professional game. And here he is looking at Leo Messi, Sergio Busquets, Luis Suarez, and then magically Busquets goes down on a phantom tackle and he's showing a yellow card.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So,
and
it is what it is.
It is. And I thought it was also very telling that Busquets afterwards, or at least yesterday, I think it was, he said, yeah, that shouldn't have been a yellow card.
But here's the thing, like, I don't think he was trying to fool the ref. I just think that's natural for him. You know what I mean? Like,
sure, right.
Trying to just draw a foul. That's it. But that gets to the ref. Experienced ref knows it.
Right.
Sees it, just calls a foul, play on. But other refs see his reaction the way he goes down, and it's like, oh, that's got to be something bad.
Right. And you can't. And I would think as a player, the last thing you want to do is alter your game at all.
Yeah.
Based on the ref. And it's like you need to believe that you're going to play your game the way that you play it.
Exactly.
And you need to trust that the referee is smart enough to understand what's going on.
Exactly.
Or experienced enough to go see what's going on.
That's what I mean when I say, like, you don't know what you're going to get. So, like, maybe you don't go in as hard. Maybe you pull out a little bit and then you get beat. Like, maybe you go in normal and it's too hard for this ref because you just don't know. And he gives you a red card. So it's just like the unknown and the risk is almost not worth it with the unknown ref.
So the other thing that's been sort of circulating around the league that's been, it's funny, for all the progress the league has made over the years in terms of raising its profile and bringing in higher quality players and just sort of putting more and more money into the whole operation. This is obviously a big potential year. Messi's here. There's all this attention. And yet the two biggest stories this preseason have been A, the referees, but then B, this whole drama around the US Open Cup. Have you been paying much attention to MLS's attempt to sort of get out of playing in this?
Not too much. One thing I saw, I think Garber said, like, we'll do it, but you can't put all the onus on MLS to make the schedules. So I have no idea who does that. If it's US Open Cup, it should be US Soccer. So I don't know who's actually scheduling all the logistics to things. But, I mean, it's the oldest tournament, so I think it should be happening, and it's a great opportunity to rest players and get younger. If you don't want to take it serious, great, then play your young guys. Like, it should be on the onus of the club to do what they want. Like, if they want to go for it, great, play your first team. If you don't want to go for it, great, play guys that want to win and can't have a chance to go for it. If you want to see what happens, mix and match. Like, I don't see, unless like they're just going to focus way more on was it Leagues Cup or
Right.
yeah, Leagues Cup, then and just put way more games in there that there is really no time. But
Yeah, to me, what it felt like was because you're right. Up until now, teams had the ability to field a first team roster if that's what they wanted to do.
yeah,
They could fill it out with reserves and then backfill with guys they are calling up from their next pro teams or whatever. And it seemed like, like you look at the Sounders, the way that they had put together their roster for the Open Cup the last few years. And it wasn't like they were rolling out their first team players. They were mostly rolling out players who needed minutes. And
yeah,
I would
exactly.
think that's a great use of the Open Cup is get
Opportunity too. Yeah.
right.
Well, here's another thing. I think the league needs to open up, expand the rosters by a few roster spots. And if they keep adding tournaments and Open Cup things like that, then they would have to. So I think that's their way of like stopping that right now. Be like, I don't want to expand it by 2 or 3 roster spots. So we'll just nix the Open Cup.
Right. It does feel again like the owners are sort of reluctant to spend a few dollars.
Yeah, we can't pay the referees. We can't make more roster spots.
Right, exactly. Like we're talking about adding maybe a couple roster spots that would cost $100,000 a year.
Exactly. But Miami, you're compliant. You're good.
Right. So did you like playing in the Open Cup, or what was your attitude about the Open Cup when you were a player?
That's the one trophy I never won.
Oh,
I didn't mind it. Like it was. Like you kind of go into it with the mentality like, okay, if we get through the first few rounds, we're going to really go for it. But those first few rounds are hard. Like you're playing lower division teams that really want to win. So games can be ugly, they can be chippy, but looking back on it, those are the fun games,
Did you like playing in? Did you like playing at Starfire? Did you ever? You played some games at Starfire.
I did, yeah. My knees were too old for it, but the atmosphere was always great, and then it was fun. Yeah, I was part of that. I played in the game against San Jose that went to PKs and the goalies and stuff. But played against Portland in the Open Cup, but we played at Tacoma.
Oh
that
yeah,
one was fun too. But I guess now that I think about it, some Open Cup games are actually like good memory games.
Yeah, both those games were fun games. Even if the result didn't quite go the way.
Well, I shouldn't say good memory, just good.
No, it was a fun.
Games,
they were fun games. They were good atmospheres.
Yeah.
They were, especially the Tacoma game, which was one of the biggest attendance the Sounders have had for an early game because
Victor Rodriguez scored in that game.
He did, yeah, that's right.
But we lost. So.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, Portland effectively used like their first team roster in that game too.
Yeah, they did.
Because it was during. Was it during an international break? It may have been during an international break.
I think something like that. Yeah, because I remember we were in the locker room going over the team, and Schmetz was like, "I don't know what they're going to roll out," and he put up it was the first team. He was like, "All right, let's go, guys."
Right.
So.
Well, it will be interesting to see how that resolves. It looks like the way it's heading right now is the last report I saw was the 7 best Supporters Shield ranked teams that weren't in CONCACAF Champions Cup. So, it's almost all Western Conference teams. It's like the Sounders, it's Atlanta, and then you go down. It's a bunch of teams like that, and then the Houston Dynamo as the defending champions were also, although they would have qualified anyway. But I guess they're kind of coming up with different ways to get. Or no, they wouldn't have qualified because they're in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Yeah. So they actually have extreme fixture congestion.
I'm sure the league will find some way to, air quotes, win the argument and be like, all right, we'll play, but only with X amount of teams. Yeah.
Well, that's sort of what it feels like they're doing is they're agreeing to play, but only under these very specific circumstances.
Under their terms. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So.
Which seems to be a recurring theme these days.
I know. I mean, you can't knock it too much because it's worked over the years, but the bigger it gets, the harder it's going to be for them to control everything.
Right. Exactly. And I guess that's maybe what they're doing everything they can to
keep it going. Yeah.
Retain as much control as they can. Yeah. Yep. Well, anything else in the soccer world that's on your mind these days, Will?
No, not too much. Just, it's fun watching the games now. It's weird not being on a sideline, but that's life. Life goes on. It's time for the next chapter. Like I told you earlier, it's like ripping off a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I easily could have played another year physically, mentally. I don't think I was there. I think I was ready to start anew and start the next chapter. And that's where I'm at now. So it's exciting at the same time.
So obviously the obvious answer here is you got to go to a wedding on a Saturday during the
That's like,
season.
yes, that is. I've missed so many weddings over the years, and one of my wife, Caitlin, one of her best friends that she played volleyball with, was getting married. So the joke was when we were there, "Oh, Will, thank you so much for retiring to come to my wedding." So it was fun. Yeah, so I was. Took me a few days to recover, but it was fun.
Anything else that you feel like is something you got to do in retirement that you realized you just were not allowed to do, or you were never able to make time for, that you have been able to do?
Honestly, not yet. It's kind of boring. Like it's nice to refresh, get a break. But at the same time, you wake up, you're like, all right, well, what should I do today? I guess I'll go for a run or do a Peloton or something. Just kind of started dabbling into trading a little bit. So
Oh, there you go.
hopefully I don't lose too much money doing that. But
It
you know,
is.
you just try to find time.
Yeah. Well, I have a feeling you won't have free time that much longer, but it's obviously great to catch up with you.
Yeah,
It's
you as
great
well.
to see that you are in good spirits and that you seem to be enjoying retirement so far, but
Yeah,
probably
it's not too
itching to
much.
figure out stuff,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Like I've enjoyed it. In my mind, I'm like, all right, once the kids, because the oldest will start kindergarten in the fall, I'm like, all right, by the end, by the summer, I want to have a new, clearer direction. So we'll just see what happens.
Well, stay in touch, and if you feel like doing this again in the meantime, you have an open invitation. We can come up with all sorts of punditry topics to
Perfect.
talk about, and you can just sort of snipe at stuff from your lounge chair.
Hey, you let me know because all I got to do these days is pick up and drop off from school. Maybe go to Target, do a few Target pickups, get some Starbucks. It's a simple life right now. Well, not simple. It's hard being a stay-at-home dad, but
No, I hear you. I definitely hear you. Well, we will, we'll get you some games under your belt of watching, and then you'll
yep,
come ready with all kinds of hot takes, I'm sure.
let's do it. You let me know.
All right. All right. Well, thank you for doing this. I'm Jeremiah Shan. This is Bear With Us. And
Retired version 1. Yep. Retired
absolutely.
episode 1.
Absolutely. All right. And we'll catch you next time.
Sounds good.